Hare Krishna, dear devotees. It's Chandra Chaitanya Das here with the Bhakti House. And so today I want to talk to you guys. I put together a little something for you guys on love, because today is Valentine's Day. It's also Sri Ishvara Puri's disappearance day. So we'll be celebrating that here in another video. But so Valentine's Day celebrates love. But what exactly is love? So we sometimes ask the question, what is love? And you'll get a lot of different answers. And in fact, about a week ago, there was a devotee, a Facebook friend of mine, and he actually asked the same question. And there was a lot of different answers that people gave him. And of course, I'm on there just kind of looking and reading. So some people think, it's attraction. Some people think love has to do with emotion. It's about chemistry and compatibility. And then, of course, you have romance, right? Love's about romance. It's about having this attraction to somebody that is like, we sometimes refer to it as the apple of my eye or something. You'll hear people say. But is it something deeper? Is love something deeper than that? So in Bhakti, love is defined quite differently. It's actually defined as service. Okay, so service. So it's kind of like a verb in a sense, if you want to think of it like that. And I kind of want to reflect today on this kind of simple idea of what service really is and why service in Bhakti, in our Bhakti tradition, is considered love. And also kind of talk to you a little bit about I don't want to give away all the secrets to love or anything like that, as if I know. I don't. Trust me, I can be humble and tell you honestly, I don't. But what I do know is that there is something to this bit about service. So in the scriptures, in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1-2-6, that's Canto 1, Chapter 2, Verse 6, it gives one of the most powerful definitions of love probably ever written. And so I'll share that with you. And in the Sanskrit, it's Savai Purusham Parodharmo Yato Bhaktir Adokshaje ahaitukī apratihatā yayatma parasidati. Okay, forgive me for kind of butchering that. The translation, though, and I think this is probably the meaningful part for many of you, is the supreme occupation for all humanity is that by which one attains loving devotional service unto the Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. By the way, guys, I did put together a blog post on this very topic, so if you guys want to skip the video and just head over to the blog, you can go to thebhaktihouse.org. That's TheBhaktihouse.org. And when you're there, just click on the blog and you'll probably see this right there. If not, you can search for it. I've tagged it as love or devotional service or something along those lines, Bhakti, so you can check it out. So again, just to kind of reiterate what this means, we have two words here that define real love. We have the ahaitukī, which is without motive, and then apratihatā, that's uninterrupted. So without motive and uninterrupted. So real love is not, I love you because you make me feel good. I love you because of what you do for me. I love you because of blah, blah, blah. All the things that would benefit me, I love you just because, there is some definition to love. In other words, I love you even when it costs me something. That's love, right? That something could be your labor, it could be your money, it could be whatever, I love you as long as you meet my expectations. Doesn't cut it. That's not real love. But some people, depending on especially what culture they grew up in and that type of thing, may actually really believe that. And if they do, hey, that's for them to believe, I guess. But when I love you, even when it costs me, it costs me something, that's really kind of a radical idea. in our Western culture, if you want to think about it like that. The world teaches conditional love, but Bhakti actually teaches unconditional service. So unconditional love is unconditional service, doing things without the expectation of anything in return, or without reward. And also doing things from the heart, not doing them necessarily just out of responsibility or duty, out of obligation, but doing things completely from the heart. So that applies to when you're giving someone something, it applies to when you're doing something nice for someone, and you want to make sure that you have the right intention and that your heart is in the right place. The self becomes very peaceful. It's apratihatā, when love becomes unmotivated. So I'll say that again. The self becomes peaceful, that's in the Sanskrit, apratihatā, when love becomes unmotivated. So it becomes peaceful when love is unmotivated. So when there's no motivation for why we do the service that we do, then that's pure love. So I want to also talk to you guys about lust versus love. Now, some of you guys, especially if you've been on this planet for a great length of time, you may have already heard the differences between lust and love. But in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, it makes a sharp distinction between the two. And so I just thought maybe you've never heard this before. By the way, guys, this is a heart back here on this whiteboard that I put up here to indicate love, bhakti, whatever you want to call it, devotional service. So it says, the Caitanya-caritāmṛta says, the desire to gratify one's own senses is Kāma, that's lust. But the desire to please Krishna's senses is Prema, that's love. So this applies directly to relationships. So let's translate this kind of practically if we can. So when I enter a relationship, am I asking, how do they make me feel? Do they validate me? Do they meet my emotional needs? Do they make me happy? All these kind of things. If so, that's still self-centered love. Okay, so that's Kāma. Even if it looks romantic. But when I ask something like, well, how can I serve this person? How can I help them grow spiritually? How can I support their dharma? What can I encourage? Or, how can I encourage their highest good? When you're doing that, that begins to kind of more like resemble what this verse is saying as far as prema goes, or love. So notice something. Prema is not weakness. It's actually strength that's under control. It's not emotional dependence. It is chosen service. And real love is not possessive. It does not cling. It contributes. It adds something to the relationship. So the secret to becoming attractive. So the world teaches us that to be attractive, we must be impressive. We must be desirable, wanted, admired, good looking, all these kind of things, But Bhakti, on the other hand, teaches something quite different. It teaches that to become selfless, service makes the heart beautiful. And beautiful character is naturally attractive. But here's kind of the guardrail, guys. We do not serve to manipulate people. We do not serve to control the other person. We do not serve to guarantee an outcome. Now that's a big one. Sometimes, we think, well, if I do this, then it'll ensure that this is the result, or that this will happen. If I act really nice to them and loving and sweet and I do all these kind of things, they won't leave me, or, it'll just be, I'll be able to keep them because, I'll have control over them, that type of thing. It's not bhakti, guys. So when something like this happens and all, if you find yourself feeling that way, like in a relationship, one of the things that you can do is to say to yourself, look, whether this person is with me or not, it doesn't matter. I'm not trying to control the outcome of the relationship. I'm not trying to say, hey, I need this person in my life. I'm going to die if I don't have this person, or I'm going to get really emotionally upset if this person decides to end the relationship and maybe go see someone else or something. None of that. It's about how can I serve this person and, just, be devoted to this person in the sense of how do I, like what we just talked about, how do I actually help them, to improve their spiritual life? How do I help them to achieve their goals or their outcomes that they're seeking, those type of things. when you're doing those kind of things and all, that's devotional service, or that's love. You're being very devoted to that person. So now, sometimes it comes down to trusting Krishna as well. So people have told me before, and I've done a lot of counseling in a sense, especially with relationships and that type of thing for devotees and so on. And one of the things people often think, like when they walk away from kind of our first meeting together, is, because I always tell people, like, if you really want to be attractive, if you really want to be desirable, if you really want to be wanted, if you really want to be admired, all these kind of things, the easiest thing to do is service, right? And with a good attitude, and to do it from the heart. And so people say, oh, that's great. So then if I am these things, impressive, desirable, wanted, admired, all these kind of things, then the person's going to want to be with me. Again, that's not the reasons why that's not love, that's not bhakti. It's that we're becoming selfless people, that service is making our heart more beautiful to this person, and that's attractive. These are byproducts of what happens, when you're loving another person. It's not about like trying to make ourselves this way so that somebody likes us or cares about us. It has nothing to do with that. It's simply about the service that we do and doing it from the heart, for no other reason, without outcome. So there's no guaranteed outcome in any of this. We're not trying to control anything. We're not trying to manipulate. And we're definitely not trying to deceive anyone when it comes to relationships and love. Our identity is not built on whether someone chooses us. It is built on who we are becoming. And so that's the key thing here. So trusting Krishna's will. So in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 66, it's a really popular verse, and this is one of my favorite verses in the Bhagavad Gita. Abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. And this includes relationships. So when we surrender the outcomes to Krishna, in many ways we stop grasping. We stop demanding, and we definitely stop trying to control other people. Instead, we begin to serve, and we trust. And that trust is really the key there. It changes everything for us. Because in anxiety, in relationships, often you get fear. That's kind of the byproduct that you end up getting. We think to ourselves, well, what if I lose this person? What if things just do not work out? What if I'm left all alone? What if I don't ever attract anyone, a mate or something like this? But when our foundation is Krishna, it's God-centered, God-focused, you're never really spiritually ever alone, and you are never ultimately losing anything. So if you're in a relationship, I want you to do this. Ask yourself, am I trying to extract happiness from this relationship, or am I trying to contribute to it? So practical bhakti relationship principles would include things like, you want to serve without keeping score. It's not about what this person does or doesn't do for you. It's not about tit for tat, that type of thing. I did the dishes this time, next time they have to do the dishes. It's not about that at all. It just isn't. It's about communicating respectfully. It's about, so use humility and, kindness in how you communicate with the other person. Don't get upset, don't get all angered, and encourage each other's spiritual growth. That's a really important one right there. And pray together if you can. If it works out that you can, great. Chant together. It's always really powerful if you chant together. And then support each other's dharma. Ideally, as devotees, for example, we could have like a grihastha ashram. The grihastha ashram would be like a married couple or something like that inside the home, that every day, they're doing their chanting together, they're doing their deity worship together, they're offering prasadam together, they're cooking together, they're doing all these wonderful things for Krishna, and they're doing them together inside the home, doing kirtan together, all these kind of things. So that would be like the grihastha ashram. So if you're in a relationship and you have someone that's a spiritual person, and that maybe that's something that you can put together. But if it's not, if that's not something that you're a part of, or even, part of your belief system, or you're not even into all of that, no big deal. You can very simply still contribute to the other person in terms of the service that you provide. Like, what can you do to really help and serve this person? So you're supporting the other person's dharma or their duty or whatever kind of things that you have going on with them. So when devotion becomes a foundation, you'll start to see in the relationship that stability itself actually starts to increase. And because your relationship is not the ultimate source of fulfillment, Krishna is, and when two people are both serving something higher than themselves, the bond becomes lighter, not heavier. So if you're single, and this is for all the single people out there that always want to find out what is the secret to relationships? Why can't I ever make it work? Why do I get with someone and then they disappoint me? This, that, blah, blah, blah. Valentine's Day itself can feel really heavy. It can feel like everyone else has something that you just simply don't. But Bhakti reframes waiting as more or less preparation. And that's really the thing that I think you should maybe focus on. So we're kind of reframing things in a sense. We're not waiting for the perfect person to come along, or the love of our life, or the soulmate, or the twin flame, or however you want to define it or call it. We're actually preparing ourselves for when that happens. So instead of asking yourself, when will I find someone? We're going to start to ask ourselves, am I becoming someone worth finding? And then we cultivate steadiness, integrity, emotional maturity, devotion, and a service-mindedness mentality. So if you become deeply grounded in service, one or two things will start to happen. You will attract someone aligned with your values, or Krishna will reveal a different path for you. Either way, you're not going to lose. You are growing, and growth itself is never wasted. So hold on to that. So the highest love, and this is really the essential thing here, is that ultimately all love finds its fulfillment in devotion to Krishna. And when the heart is connected to its source, relationships become healthier, not obsessive, secure, not obnoxious, and service-based, not transactional. And Valentine's Day becomes an opportunity to purify and define our love. Love's not about possession, it's not about control, it's definitely not about demanding things or demand. Love's all about service. And service, when offered without motive and without interruption, completely satisfies the self. So if this reflection kind of speaks to you, take a moment today to kind of redefine love in your own heart, not as something to extract, but as something to offer. Chant, serve, trust, and let love become steadiness, not emotion alone. And so thank you guys so much for joining us here at the Bhakti House. And Hare Krishna to all of you. Final takeaway though, just gotta say this. Guys, if think about it like this, if you serve the other person more than anyone else serves them, literally, like if you do more for someone than anyone else does, if you are just, I used to tell people, this analogy of like baking an apple pie for someone. Someone said, well, he's just not really into me, or, she's just not really giving me the time today. Tripping over my words here. Go bake them an apple pie, That's something so simple that you can do, and something that nobody else, I promise you, has probably ever done for them. It's just something interesting. Or cherry pie if they don't like apples, but pumpkin pie, gluten-free pumpkin pie, So whatever you got to do, and I promise you that will go a long way, a lot further than you think. And then just continue. Be obsessive about it. If you're really in love with someone, if you really want someone, if you really want to be with somebody, serve that person. Don't worry about what that person's going to do or ever going to do for you. It's not about that. You're not with them for that reason. We don't serve God because of what God's going to do for us. That would be really a selfish reason to serve God. We serve God because we love God and we want to serve God. End of story. As far as that goes. But then, if you're that person that does more service than anyone else, don't you think that you'll have more favor than anyone else? Does it really matter about your looks? Looks are going to fade, and most people, even on a subconscious level, kind of realize that. We even realize that about our own selves, Definitely not as attractive as we are when we're like, in our younger years, right? I'm just saying, But it's not all about that. It's also about personality and who we're actually becoming. And you say, well, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I've been this way my whole life. My personality is just what it is. Give it a shot. Just try service. And I think you'll find that your life will actually open up more, and you'll be very much more attractive to people, and you'll find that the person that you're attracted to just starts to maybe find you a little bit more attractive, and just after a while that relationship starts to stick, and you'll see that things just kind of naturally fall into place. And if they don't, just remember, Krishna has a plan for you, and just keep serving in that capacity, and don't worry about it. Life, I know it's easier said than done, but I think if you really get the sense that you're not alone and that God's always there for you, that you're going to be a happy person regardless, and that but I think you'll be surprised. Krishna usually gives some mercy, so especially in these kind of capacities. So much love, many blessings. I will see you guys on the next episode of the Bhakti House. Hare Bol.